Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on the MIgardener channel. Today we're going to be checking out the worms, giving them a little bit of food. I've not fed them in a while because I've not been wanting to dig through the beds. When we moved about a month ago, I wanted to make sure that they had a good month of kind of an acclimation period, because it can stress them out if you're digging through it on a regular basis, and also can kind of stress them out when you move because the temperature in this basement is much colder than the one we had in the house. And so I've just been kind of respecting them, not to pester them and dig through them, so that they can get used to this, because it is obviously coming closer to springtime. I do want some good worm castings for starting seeds and using for worm tea and whatnot. So I just figured, hey, if you're not touching them for a month, the payoff's probably going to be pretty good. Now I am ready to kind of show you the worms and dig through them, give them a little bit of food, and I was really pleased when I opened up this red one, what I saw. Now I do have 3 setups, and as you know, I made them about a year ago. These are the original setups with the original worms. So for anyone that is wondering how long your worm bins will last, they haven't died yet. So assuming you take good care of them, they should live indefinitely, I would imagine, because they reproduce, and I'm sure the worms in there now are not the worms that were in there in the beginning. They most likely have died or reproduced or whatever, and but they're still here, which is good. Now the thing is that I did want to talk about my food. I've had so many questions on my worm bin episodes where I build the worm bins, you know, what do you feed your worms? And everyone, there's a very common misconception. Everyone always says no citrus. Now I want to clarify that there is some truth to that, but not 100% truth, and that's okay. You know, there's a lot of different opinions that go on, and that's fine. That's great. That's what builds diversity. But I want to show you my experience, and with my experience, I have had no problem feeding them the inside of the citrus. We make fresh orange juice almost every day here, and I really prefer fresh squeezed orange juice. So we'll buy oranges in bulk and run them through the juicer, and what comes out is just the orange pith and the inside of the orange. Now, with my experience, worms will eat the inside of the orange without a problem at all, whatsoever, no problem. They will go through it just as fine as any other food. So I would suggest giving them that, because it's better than throwing it out, and you can make some food for your garden, and they obviously don't mind. Now with the outside of the orange, that's where I would agree not to feed them. And the reason is because worms don't eat anything that's living. They have to see or smell or sense that it's breaking down and rotting, and then they'll start eating it. So if there's no decomposition happening, I find that they don't eat it. And with oranges, they have a high oil content, and the oil actually acts as a preservative, and it doesn't really rot or mold. It actually just kind of shrivels up and doesn't really do anything. And that I have found the worms don't eat. They'll sit in there for 3-4 months, and it will stay a shriveled up orange peel, and nothing will really happen to it. That I would say keep out of your worm bins. So, and that's kind of the theory behind that, is that it has a high oil content, and the worms really won't eat it because it's not breaking down. But as far as the insides, feed it to your worms, absolutely no problem. I'll show you the other worm bin. I have one more to feed. I've been feeding them on a weekly basis about 2 pounds of basically just blended up food. And the reason why I blend it is because it increases the surface area and it makes it a little smaller. They can well, not really chew it, but they can digest it faster, and I find that they can go through it a little bit quicker, allowing for there not to be any mold or rot, because that does smell. Because that leads me to the next question, is does it smell? And let me tell you, I'll even open this up here, and I can tell you that for everyone that was worried about their spouse kicking them in the doghouse for having these, don't worry about it. It is so not smelly at all, and I wish I could convey that to you. I don't have a bad nose. I have a very sensitive nose, and these don't smell at all. They smell very mildly earthy, very, very mildly earthy. There's no smell of rot, there's no smell of mold, and that's just because I listen to my worms. If they're not eating all of the food and some of it is starting to mold, that means I'm feeding them too much, and I back it off, wait for them to eat it all, and then I also wait for the soil to kind of dry out so it's just very slightly damp. If you oversaturate the soil, the water mixed with the bacteria, some of it's going to go anaerobic. That's where you get a little bit stronger of a smell as well. I let it just be lightly damp, enough for the worms to be able to absorb moisture, be comfortable, and yet not create kind of a sludge, because that does stink, and also not dry enough to where the worms die, because that also stinks because they're living. So there's a very fine line, and I feel that the more you work with your worms, the better it's going to be. So I would highly suggest at least starting one up, and if you fail one time, don't worry about it. I did not fail at all with this setup. This was my second setup though, but the first one I didn't even really fail at. It just got eaten by a raccoon that dug through it and ate all the worms. So I keep these indoors now to prevent that. But needless to say, no problems at all. It's been hassle-free, and it's probably, between the three of the worm bins, I have produced about 200 pounds of worm castings easily, and both of these are half full of worm castings, so that's a good 75 pounds easily right there, plus what we harvested last year. But as far as food consumption, we've probably kept at least 500 to 600 pounds out of the landfill, which I like to say is it's a pretty good accomplishment for 3 worm bins over the course of a year. So let's go check out that other one. We'll check it out, dig through it a little bit, and we'll feed them some food scraps as well. All right. So this one is actually about half full as well. And as well with this, you're looking at damp, but not overly damp. It's just kind of clumpy. You know, see here, this is, it's clumpy, but it's not like falling apart dry stuff. And another thing that I've been noticing with these worms here is that they like to congregate. So where most people sometimes will kind of just slop food all over the top, I actually will feed them in a corner. And I know that's something that is suggested by a lot of people that do worm bins. And my thinking is because they like to be in kind of, not really a community, but they like to be close to each other and kind of use teamwork to decompose the food. And I think that that's more doable when it's all in a clump rather than kind of spread all throughout the bed where one worm's going to go this way, another worm's going to go that way, and you can kind of keep them all together. Now again, this food is, you got some orange peel in there, and you have some delightful kale bisque, and some spinach. Whatever the supermarkets are throwing out that's gone bad, we typically tell them, hey, save a box for us, and they'll save a box for us. We'll blend that up at the end of the week. And whatever other food scraps we don't throw, that we don't want to throw out, like broccoli bottoms or whatever, stuff that is just not all that pleasing to cook up and eat, we'll feed to the worms. Stuff that goes soft, stuff that maybe might go a little, not really go bad because we don't let much go bad, but if it's starting to go or a little more unpleasing, we feed it to worms because they don't mind whatsoever. So again, the menu does change from week to week. We try to alternate it so we're not feeding them all one thing. I think that does quite a bit for your worm castings. It, number one, gives them variety, which again is the spice of life. Variety is the spice of life, and I find that with any type of thing, I mean, if you're growing only one crop, for instance, that type, monocultures are not good because of a lot of reasons. But mono meals are probably not the best either because they only have one type of nutrient. Even if it's organic produce, they only have one type of, or well, maybe not one type of nutrient, but it's one type of food. So you might have a little bit of vitamin C, a little bit of vitamin D, a little bit of vitamin K, and some iron, your potassium and nitrogen and phosphorus and stuff like that. But it's that one food, so the concentration of those nutrients are going to be just about the same. Whereas if you feed them a little bit of orange, a little bit of kale, a little bit of carrot, and then alternate it, some weeks you might feed them all kale, some weeks you might feed them watermelon rinds and kale, and carrots or whatever, but mixing it up helps to get all those different foods, which all have different nutrient properties, and that leading to a more well-rounded worm casting, which is, in my eyes, one of the best worm castings to have is a well-rounded one, because you have all those different nutrients that are found in those different foods, and that way you can have the best and richest worm castings that your worms can produce. Because hey, I mean, if it's going to be something you're going to use on your garden, what do we say here? Grow big or go home, right? So if it's going to be done, do it right, and I think that's the best way to do it. All right, and I think we're looking good there. I don't typically dig around too awful much in my beds. I like to do as minimal as possible, and that way the worms just stay as happy as possible. So we're looking good there. That is an all thumbs up, green light for go. Let's keep it up, guys. We're going to have a good spring season. I'm going to use all these worm castings to sprout seeds and make worm tea. So we're going to have a good harvesting session. The last thing is that these buckets are getting pretty full of worms. This one especially is getting chock full of worms. We're going to actually make a worm division, so stay tuned for that episode. I'm going to show you all how to divide your worms and how to do it properly, because there are some tips and tricks to doing it properly that many of you probably would not know about, and that's keeping basically worms as a community and not having basically 100 or less worms. So we'll talk more in detail about that, because you want to have a good worm bin and a successful worm bin if you're going to divide them, because hey, let's put it this way, they're happy here, but I want them to be able to divide faster and make more worm castings for me and be able to take in more of our food scrap. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, and definitely get some worms. I would highly suggest it. It is not only ecologically friendly, but it is great for your garden. It provides awesome food, and it's something that you can do in the wintertime to keep your hands dirty, because let's put it this way, when you're rooting through those worm castings, your hands do get a little bit of dirt, and nothing feels better than a little dirt on the fingers after a long cold winter. So definitely give it a try, and I will talk to you all later. This is Luke from MIgardener, hoping you all are growing big or going home, wherever you are. Hopefully you're staying warm, and I'll talk to you all later in the next episode. All right, see you guys. Bye.